Hello, everybody. How's it going?
Good. How?
Man, oh man, this is episode 4 of the International Academy, Comedy Academy, ICA. It's a mouthful, I know. Man, we had such a great episode 3. We had Samarpan Bose on. It was super awesome. That dude is super talented, super fun. And today we have an amazing guest as well. As you know, my name is Mitt Wolf, comedian from Chicago, alum Second City, host of Feedback Mike, and other incredible creds. And I am here with my lovely host, Mr. Nelson Tinashe.
Gombakomba.
Gombakomba. Oh man, and Nelson is an amazing comedian from the UK, a regular at the Comedy Store in the UK, and just an all-around comedy professor. So we're here to nerd it up about comedy. So with that, let's introduce our guest. This guest today, I'm so excited to introduce. I saw her first at the open mic that we held last Thursday, and she just radiated positivity, and she radiated just like playfulness, and it's just really refreshing when you're at an open mic and people aren't just like reading their notes and she was just like having a good time, and it was unanimous that everyone was just like, she's fun, not only that, she's a great writer. She also came from my mother's motherland, and that's India, and she moved to Nashville for some reason, not quite
for
sure.
some reason.
For some reason. But without further ado, let's welcome Ritu.
Woo! Thank you. That
How's
was a
it going?
great introduction. Did we decide on $55? Is that right?
Yes, you will pay me $55 every time.
Thank you. That was a good introduction. Thanks.
Oh man, yeah, that's what happens. How's your day been though? What you been up to?
It was good. I got to work and was just excited for my first podcast. That's
your
cool.
First podcast?
Yes.
Oh,
can you see my smile?
Yeah, they can see. I mean, the people that are going to be listening to it will hear your smile because it's real loud.
Do you listen to podcasts, Ritu?
I used to not when I was in India, but when you move to the US, it's a thing. It's a hobby, I guess. So I had to adapt to it.
How long have you been in the US?
4 years.
All right. So we are your first comedy podcast. So
That's so exciting. Oh my gosh.
What?
That we're the first podcast.
We are her first. What has been your expectation so far? Is this living up to your first time? Did you ever?
Yeah, you guys are good. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it seems easy.
It seems easy. Yeah, we make it look easy. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So tell us a little bit about how you go from India, come to Nashville, and then come to do comedy.
Okay. Yeah. So I moved to the US for marriage. I got married here, and then I got divorced 2 years ago. And after divorce, I was just bored and single. So I saw this comedy class, and I was like, yeah, this will be fun to learn to how to make people laugh. And I was like, it's a hobby. I mean, it's something new to learn. So I joined the class, and I just enjoyed learning how to craft a joke. And after the class, I did open mics, and I've been into it since then. It just was a great moment. The first open mic, those 4 minutes were like amazing. I felt great, so I just kept doing it.
Your first open mic was great, or your first show? There's a difference.
No, first open mic was great, as in I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being on stage. I wasn't nervous. I was just so happy that I am making people laugh. So, and after my first open mic, I've been downhill. So, no. The first open mic was great, and after that, the overconfidence got me.
I was waiting for that. I was like, wow, you enjoy open mics that much? That's crazy. No, because so like I did my first class over here too, and it was 4 weeks here in Chicago at a place called Lincoln Lodge. So the first week we learned kind of comedy fundamentals, and then we would write our set until week 5, where we would perform it, and there would be like a friends and family show. And that show was the biggest, fakest show ever, because it's just like, oh my God, I'm so good at comedy. Like, this is insane. Everyone loves me, and they're clapping and cheering. And then I did that same set at an open mic, and I was just like, hey, what about Brett Favre? And they were just like, boo. Who cares? And I was just like, wow, no, that's not good.
Yeah.
That's
yeah, awesome. I realized very soon as well that this isn't easy. After at the first mic, I was like, I got this. I am so funny. Oh my God. And after that, I've been so bad. I was like, this is difficult. Oh shit, what did I get myself into?
That's so funny.
Ritu, where do you draw your inspirations from? So do you talk about your background, your job? Do you talk about your past relationships? Do you have topics that you don't talk about? You know, and how do you pick up your topics having lived such a broad life?
Yeah, so I mostly talk about life in India and the US. It's so different. So I try to compare. And then my dating life, I've never dated. Like, I didn't date before. Like, my marriage was my first husband and boyfriend and everything. And so my dating was new in America. So I talk a lot about that. And I do not talk about Trump because I love him so much. I don't talk about
him. Getting married before you date is quite a unique and interesting situation from my perspective. I mean, I guess it's not unique so much as it's, practiced all over the world. But if you were to explain to a Western audience the difference between, I guess, a husband that started off as a boyfriend or a husband that just started off as a husband, then you had to mold him into a boyfriend. Does that make sense?
You mold him into a boyfriend. That's fun.
Like, how does it work? How does it work? Or have you found a lot of comedy in
well, I would talk about, in India, people usually get married to have sex. And in America, we have sex and never get married. It's kind of the same. Like, that's what dating is, right? Dating and marriage. I don't think I answered your question at all, but this is what I could say.
No, you gave me an interesting angle. I have a friend of mine, and of late, me and I have just been discussing really deep information, and we've realized that the whole concept of marriage, even from a Western point of view, is just so people can have sex.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. I mean, there's tax purposes, obviously, and
tax purposes and sex, yeah.
Tax purposes, and I guess creating children, but sex normally is the first and only reason.
That is true.
It's the people that don't know how to get sex on their own, so they're like, well, we got to figure out one girl to lock down so we can do it.
No, yeah. But marriage is a beautiful concept, but I've gotten married once, and I'm kind of happy and done with it now. It's good now. I don't want to look back. So, but yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, and I mean, that brings up a really familiar structure in comedy, right? That compare and contrast. And because you've lived in such vast cultures, there's so much to pull from, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like the biggest thing, there's such a culture shock when you're born here and you go to India for the first time. It's just the craziest thing. It's like everything is in order over here. People like follow rules and blah, blah, blah. And then in India, it's like, look at the traffic over there. It's absolutely out of control.
That's true.
The traffic signals are just a suggestion.
Nobody follows rules there.
Nobody
I was just amazed when I moved here. I'm like, wow, people follow the pedestrian sign so like strictly. In India, when people don't care, you're like, if you're on the road, you're about to die. Like, you know, it's just we are everywhere.
Yeah, I think it's like every time you try to cross the road in India, it's like a game of Frogger. Where you're just like, you got to time that traffic right, or you're gonna
you're like, maybe this is my last time crossing the street. Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know.
Oh man, that's super awesome. Holy shit.
Yeah,
I find that when you're from a different culture, it's very easy to do the compare and contrast. But now, you know, because I'm from a similar situation as well. I'm from Zimbabwe, and I moved here. And I noticed that for a lot of my comedy, I talk about how much that change impacted my life. So, but as I have done more comedy and as I have performed over the years, I feel like I've talked about that topic in so many angles now, and I'm moving on to something slightly different, as in now the jokes are not just about the differences, it's now digging deeper into other subject matters just so I sound different from another comic that's come out through a similar background. So apart from the comparisons, what other sort of material have you looked into?
What other material? I usually just talk about my mom a lot because she's funny. So I talk about her, my parents, and just that's all I. It's just been 2 years, so I don't just comparison dating and my mom, my funny brown parents. But that's all. That's all I can think of. What else do you talk about?
That's good. That is good. What do I talk about? So when I'm in a set, I first talk about my introduction, who I am, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
I talk about how I got here. So I talk about, like, you know, the backstory. Then I start telling stories about my childhood. So the way I wrote my set is kind of like chronological in that the early jokes are just about me coming to England, settling in. And by the time I get to the 4 or 5 minute mark, I'm not talking about observational stuff. So jokes that don't really have anything to do with me, but because they're being told by me, they have my writing all over them, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So I put the observational jokes in the middle and towards the end, but I establish my character first. Then once they know who I am, I start talking about how I see the world. But that sort of writing is just something that I felt, you know, made sense in how I developed my set. Because when I started, it was just jokes.
Mm-hmm.
The story. So the first joke is connected to the last joke, as opposed to having separate jokes that make it 10-minute mark.
Right. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I'm working on my observational thing. I'm very bad at that. I want to work on it.
The thing I like about that stuff is that it's you start talking, it's a universal language. So if you have used the first few minutes of your set, which I presume you do, talking about yourself or explaining your perspective,
right,
then by the time you get to now talking about how you see things. The audience is with you because they can see it through your eyes, as opposed to just hearing a joke without putting a character behind it. So, I mean, it takes time, but are your jokes connected? Like, do you do callbacks? Do you tell a story, or is it singular?
I'm not very comfortable with silence yet. So I just have like a lot of one-liners together. I like laughs a lot. Like I cannot have a break. So I'm not into storytelling, but they're kind of connected. Like I would finish my dating and I'm like, all right, are you guys ready to make fun of Americans now? All right, let's do it. So then I'll get into American observational things and then end with something about my parents. So it's kind of not a story, but it's still connected.
Do you do callbacks?
What's that?
Do you do callbacks where you repeat a punchline that gets a laugh, but in a different context?
I guess I do that.
Okay, it's quite technical, but my point is, it's just like the way you've described your set, joke. It makes sense, and as I'm picturing it right now, like I was saying earlier on about how it's a story. When you take yourself out of the situation, when you look at your set written down, does it tell a story, or is it just...
Yes. At the end of my set, you will know a lot about me. So yeah, it does tell a story about who I am and how I got here and all that. Yeah.
So my observations, the ones that I end up making, are hinged on the character I would have built in the early part of my set. So it's all connected.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that the jokes aren't just jokes, but they have a character in them as well. The jokes feel like they're told by me as opposed to just the joke standing on its own. If that makes sense.
Yeah, but you started off doing one-liners and like random jokes before.
Yeah,
and then
it's taken years to develop, but I had to write loads of jokes to get to a point where I can then arrange them in an order where they tell a story.
Yeah. Ritu, do you, when you like write out your one-liners, do you rearrange them to like tell a story, or is it just kind of random, like whenever you...
No, I arrange it as if it seems like a story.
Okay.
Yeah, because and if it's something not related, I would just say that it's not related. I just wanted to say that joke, but let's get back to this, But it's mostly related and it's a story, but one-liners. Yeah.
So the one thing that struck me about your performance is what Nelson and I talk about a lot is sometimes the most important thing is your relationship with the audience and your likability. And you were just so present and so just like, you just had this energy about you. And I was just wondering if that took a while to cultivate, or like, like what is that to you? Or are you aware that that's what you come off as?
I am, yes. Okay. And that's who I am actually. It's how I am in normal regular life. I'm really excited about things I haven't done. Yeah. So that Zoom open mic was my first time Zoom open mic. So I was excited about that. And then I had a show, like I had a mic, so I had to do a set. So I was just excited and normally and generally about it.
Got it.
And but I've learned that over time that how you open your joke and how enthusiastic you are about your own set is how audience is going to take it. So like I have confidence in my own set and I know it's funny. That's when you're going to feel like it's funny. You know what I mean? When I say when I say my set, I just know for myself that it's good. You will believe it.
You're a good salesman. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's my job too. So
if you had some new jokes, that you didn't know if they were going to work or not, but you're telling yourself like, I know these are going to work because I'm amazing. Like what is that mindset like?
Oh, no, not like I'm amazing. No, it's just that I would try my one-liners or something on my friends first, or, and then if I have a smile on their face or a little laugh, I kind of know that has potential. And then I will do that in front of the audience. And also when I do open mics, I usually do not do all new jokes. I would do old jokes and new jokes. So I kind of know that I'm okay, that old jokes are already good. And then new jokes I will know if you're laughing or not. If it makes sense.
Yeah. And that way you can gauge because you have your control. It's kind of like a science experiment. You have your control, which is your old jokes. And then okay, well, that was the reaction I got at this specific mic. Now let me try these new jokes. That's not the reaction that I got with this joke. So this joke needs work. Is that kind of?
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. And the old joke is usually the start of my set. So I get your attention as a new audience. So you've made up your mind that I'm funny, and now I'll try my new joke. And if it doesn't work, you still don't hate me because you saw that I was funny. Yeah. And I would usually, if my joke doesn't work, I'll be like, all right, well, I spent 10 minutes on this. It's okay if it's not good. Let's go on to something else.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not. Yeah. That's
I like your commentary in between your sets too. You're just like, next joke, or like, these are the punchlines, like, is that stuff you write, or is that stuff that's just riffed? Like,
that's just riffed. That's how I am.
Where did those come from?
Where does it come from?
Yeah, I mean,
I talk like that.
Like sarcastic or whatever. Like
sarcastic. I am sarcastic. Yeah. I have dry humor, sarcasm. Yeah, my friends call me mean also, so I guess that works in my favor a little bit.
Meanal?
I am mean, like sarcastic.
Oh, like
mean.
It. That's funny.
So, Ritu, what are your comedy influences? I'm trying to build an image of what has made you what you are right now. So, who are the acts that have influenced the comedy act you see today that you write?
I really like Trevor Noah.
Yeah.
First, because he's hot.
Yeah.
And also, he's funny.
Lethal combination there.
Good combination, right? Yeah. So I love how easy he is. Like, it's just, he comes very authentic about what he says. So I like him a lot. And then I like Amy Schumer too. So those are my influences. Is that what you asked?
Yeah.
I'm so bad with this.
Well, the way I look at that question is, if it was asked to me, I just think about the people that made me want to do comedy.
Oh, no, nobody told me that I should be a comedian. I was from India. I never watched any special or anything at all. I just got into comedy from nowhere. But when I got on stage, that's when I realized that I enjoyed it so much that I want to master this craft. And it's not about being famous or making money out of this. It's just something that you enjoy. So I just enjoy it. So yeah, there was nobody who was like, oh my God, you are so awesomely funny. Like, you should be a comedian. No, nobody told me that.
And also, you didn't even research on comedians. You just went purely from what you thought a comedy set was.
Yes.
That's a very new approach, and the reason why I'm asking so many questions is because normally people would have someone they saw do it or something, but for someone to just do it out of pure emotion, it's interesting, and it makes us, think about how we look at the craft in itself,
So there's nothing in your childhood besides like your mom, you said was funny? That's what you said?
What's that?
You said your mom was funny? Like when you were younger?
oh yeah, she's like mean funny. She just keeps telling me when I'm going to get married again, and like she just keeps bugging me about it. So
Right.
she's funny in that way. Like, but no, nobody really like comedian was not a thing for me ever. Yeah. But now it is everything to me. But yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, so the reason I actually asked you on here is because you had like some awesome jokes. And so I wanted you to kind of break down two of those jokes that Nelson and I thought were really cool. So we had sent you the ones, you know, the ones that we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so just kind of tell the joke like you would on stage, and then tell us like your process of like how you wrote it.
Okay, yeah. So the first one was I am dating a guy in Columbia, Tennessee. I never thought I'd have to cross 3 Cracker Barrels to find love. So it was just like, yeah. So that was one of them. And how do you want me to go with the second one, or just tell you how I got?
Yeah, let's talk about this one real quick.
Okay. So my friend is actually dating a guy in Columbia, Tennessee.
Yes, it's you.
And like we were having a girls' night, and she said, "So this guy is in Columbia," and I was like, "Where's that?" And she's like, "It's 2 hours from here." And I just randomly said, I was like, "Wait, I mean, whoa, you have to go 2 hours to find love, huh?" And then she said, "That's funny." And I was like, "Okay," so I just wrote that in my notepad. And then the next like 2 or 3 days after, I just started writing, and I was like, what comes in between Nashville and Columbia? And then I thought gas stations, and then I just randomly thought Cracker Barrel, and I just randomly thought it's 3 Cracker Barrels.
3 Cracker.
And then when I finished writing it, I had a smile on my face.
Yeah.
So that same evening, and I was dying to try it on stage, so I ran to an open mic and I tried it, and it worked. And I jumped on stage and I was like, yeah, I just wrote it today. It worked.
Rita, I like your approach. I like how everything starts off. There's positivity in everything. It starts off as just a joke. Your friend picks it up. You write it down. Then that you take that moment to the stage, and it actually works.
It actually works, yeah.
It actually works. That's good. Yeah. I find a lot of positivity in what you're saying. Is that what you radiate on stage, or do you have a persona when you're on stage?
No, it's just me. I actually just love comedy so much that you could see it on stage how much I enjoy it, and you will obviously see something I don't enjoy. I make very bad faces, so you will just. I'm just, I just know what I like, and I know what I don't like.
Yeah, you feel emotion.
Yeah, so I really am very curious about this craft. I read books on comedy. I don't watch Netflix specials a lot because I don't have patience to watch like an hour. Yeah. But I try to watch it more like in person. I like to see how they react and how their hand movements or facial expressions are. So I try to learn from whoever I really like.
Yeah. Ritu, well, what I'm getting from you is that you focus on the energy of the room, and that in itself is a skill. That's not something that you can easily pick up on from a Netflix special, but from just having this call with you, I can tell that if you're in the audience, you radiate quite a lot of energy, which breaks the ice for you and the audience, takes away all that awkwardness. Are you aware that some people have to learn that skill for years?
I had to learn it too. English is my second language. So I did have this thing when I went on stage that I would like do a wrong, like say something wrong, like a pronunciation would be wrong, or like I would do a grammatical error or something. I always had that in the back of my mind. But I was like, even if it is a wrong pronunciation, they would still laugh. So my goal is achieved, right? Like, I could just stop worrying about all those things. Wow. So, like, so I did have that thing initially, but I soon realized that I could actually make this as a positive thing rather than thinking about how this language is not something I'm very comfortable with. So, you know, so yeah, I have my own problems, but yeah.
I find your positivity really engaging, and I can ask so many questions here, but I think from what I'm picking up, a lot of your material, a lot of what makes you funny is the natural stuff, is that energy, that vibing with the audience, that's a natural skill. Now, you will need to craft it so that it translates to jokes, which I'm sure you already do. But that early thing, that's the magic that I always say that you can't teach, because it's charisma. It's, I don't know how to do it, but it's that lack of fear.
It's really, that's what it is. Like, so when I put myself in a situation where, if I had to go on stage with joke, like a brand new joke, and I didn't even know the language, I would be shitting my pants. I would be like, what is going on over here? You know what I'm saying? And that kind of energy would translate right to the audience. Oh, he's nervous. Now I feel nervous. I don't like this, you know? And then that will affect my delivery, you know? Like, I'm not going to butcher your joke, so don't worry. But it would affect my delivery, because I wouldn't go 3 Cracker Barrels away, ding, you know, it would go like 3 Cracker Barrels away. And you wouldn't get, even though the joke is crafted the same way, you're not going to get the same results. And man, like, yeah, how do you teach that? How do you teach someone to like look at a situation and go, this is not the worst thing in the world, I'm not gonna die, and actually it's a positive thing, you know? Like, what, I don't know how you,
I think part of,
because there are people that are negatively biased, and then there's her who's like positively biased, you know?
Nah, okay, Rita, I'll let you go first before I interrupt.
No, I was just saying that I think if you love something, even if you're bad at it, you will end up getting good at it, because you just will put in so much work. You just should know what you're passionate about. And I really struggled with it for a long time. I really wanted to find what I loved doing. I tried art, I hated it. I tried drawing and then hiking and whatnot to just find what I really loved to do. And I could just write for hours. I write so many shitty jokes, I cannot even tell you. Like 80% of my material is trash. Like, it's so shitty. But I still, because I love it, I keep getting better at it. Just because, you know, I enjoy it. And I had stage fear also. I joined public speaking classes. Do you guys know about Toastmasters? It's like the public speaking classes. Yeah. So I joined that before I tried comedy. And then so I didn't have stage fear because of that. So I was comfortable on stage because I did so many speeches in front of so many people. So that was kept aside. Now I just had to be funny. So, you know, so yeah, I worked towards it, but it's fun if you love it.
You're a natural comedian. You have the fact that you don't feel fear is what a lot of people go to learn. You know, when you're starting your comedy journey, a lot of people need these things, need these extra skills. You already have stage presence, so that's already a box tick. Now you just need to do all these other things, but you have the most important skill, you know, the ability to stand in front of people and just talk shit
and have fun.
Have fun,
right? And have fun doing it. Like, anyone can stand up and talk in front of people, but to have fun and really engage is that skill. And that's awesome that you have it in year 2 already. And now all you have to do is learn the craft, which you can learn from books and people. Like, you did it all backwards, but you did it.
That's the thing. I also, to add to that, Ritu, I think part of the reason why that makes this episode fascinating is because you're not someone that we can teach too much about delivery, because what you have is so raw that in a way it's pure. Like you're already funny. You're a natural comedian. The only thing that I think you need to work on, if you were to work on anything, just be like the technical side of things. So let's say things like callbacks, things,
yes,
or those little comedy thingies, the little
yeah,
the wordplay, the the
that's
little
true.
bits and pieces. But you got the main thing, which is an ability to talk shit in front of people without feeling embarrassed or feeling bad.
Yeah, I love feedback though. I take it very seriously and I work on it. Unless you're trying to be mean to me, then I will be super bad too.
I'm gonna sneak into next shows and just boo from the background.
Yeah, I want to see the meanal side of you. Oh man. Yeah, okay, let me rewind real quick, because so you said the first thing you were talking to your girlfriends, and then one of them, it was dating a guy in Colombia, and she said this person's 2 hours away. And you said you need to find love. You need to go find love, and it's 2 hours away, and then you wrote it down. Do you do that a lot? Like, do you just have a notebook like in your pocket, and you guys are just like, hold on, I'm gonna write this down? Or how do you, like, that's a habit, that a lot of comedians don't have. They'll think of something and then they're just like, I'll just remember it later. Yeah. And they won't write it down, But to actually have a pen and paper with you while you're having fun, while you're having a good time, that's awesome. And I'm just wondering, like, is that something that you had to develop, or is that something that you've just been doing?
No, I had to develop that. I read this article on comedy and comedy writing. I love going on stage and performing. So you cannot just go unprepared. You have to prepare. Yeah. So I struggle with writing. So I keep reading a lot about comedy writing. Yeah. And then they keep saying that if you have ideas, or if you're talking just a normal conversation with friends or family and they laugh at something, try to note it down and then maybe modify it or switch it, and then try to see if you can come up with something from that. So when she laughed, and her laugh was like real laugh, she's like, oh, that's funny. Like you said that you have to find love. Yeah. To go that far to find love. Right. And it was like, if she laughed, there is something in it. So I just put it on my notepad on the phone to stick, and then I remembered to go back to it. So I developed, I'm working on it, and then I try to write daily, just so I am in habit of writing. Yeah. Not because I want to be funny all the time, 24/7. No, it's just that it's a habit. You have to form a habit. So that's it. Yeah.
So I'm going to rewind you back to that moment where the next day you have that line that you wrote down. Mm-hmm. You're sitting down and you're like, okay, what do I do with this
now? Yeah. So I just wrote, and then I was like, and then I actually came up with that joke pretty soon. I just wrote Colombia, my God, and I just thought I should make it as my boyfriend, because that would be a long story that my friend is dating a guy in Colombia. Yeah. So I made the guy my boyfriend. Yeah. And I kind of took her permission on it. She said, keep him. And that's why.
That's a great tag.
That's a great tag.
Oh my God.
That's how great my friends are. I'm like, he's my boyfriend, but just keep him for the joke.
Add that. Have you ever considered that, to add that tag?
For the purposes of this joke, I created that man.
That's really, really funny. You finish that joke and then you go, no, not really my boyfriend. It's my friend's boyfriend. And I asked her, and she was just like, "Nah, keep him. It's fine."
I actually should add that. Yeah,
that's really funny. Okay, but so yeah, I'm really trying to get into the nitty gritty of like what your thinking process is when you go, okay, 2 hours, Cracker Barrel, boyfriend. Like, where are all the connections? How are you getting to?
So she said that Colombia is like 2 hours from here.
Yeah, I got it.
So I just sat down and I was like, well, this line sounds funny that the guy lives in Columbia, Tennessee, and I had to go so far to find love.
Yeah.
But then in between, if there is something like a gas station that I'm crossing, and then I was like, gas station is too obvious. Anybody could think that.
Why did you think in between if there's a gas station? Like, why?
I started driving in my imagination to my boyfriend's house, I guess.
Oh.
I was just sitting and I was like, how would she go there? So she drives to Columbia. So when she's driving, she's crossing something. And I was like, okay, so she's crossing gas stations and then she's crossing Cracker Barrels. And then the first person I tried this joke was her. I called her and I was like, hey, I wrote something on you. And the moment she laughed, I was like, oh my God, when is this open mic? At 6:30, I have to do this. So, you know, you get excited when you write something. You're like, oh my God, am I so creative?
Am I so amazing? So cute. That's awesome. So what you did, so there is, have you heard of the 5 W's before? Okay.
Why, what?
Yeah. Who, what, why, when, where, and then also how. How is not a W, but.
Yes, I read it somewhere. Yes.
And I didn't really, I mean, I use it all the time. So I'll write a premise and then I'll go who, you know, who is this? Why is this? Why would that happen? You know, how would it happen? Blah, blah, blah. But what you did was awesome. You were just like putting yourself in that situation and you go, how would I get to my boyfriend's house? And what you did is really great because what ends up happening is now that joke has a visual component built in to the audience's mind. And that's huge when you're writing a joke. And you already did that. Like sometimes when I'm asking like who, what, why, when, it's always just rhetorical questions, you know? It's never an image in my mind. But I love how you just went, oh, let me put myself in a car and go to my imaginary boyfriend's house that lives in Colombia and see what happens on the journey.
Yeah, and that's what I did.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Okay. I'll use that. I'm stealing that for sure.
I think that's a very good point. The 5 W's inspire, they incite you to add visuals to the joke and
why not do that? Yeah, that's amazing. Cool. Yeah. And then so then you're driving to your boyfriend's house, imaginary, and you're just like looking, okay, gas station, Cracker Barrel, and that guy's white probably, huh?
Very obvious, right?
Cracker Barrel, I got it. The whole joke, I understand it. That's fun. That's fun. Cool. I'm satisfied. Next joke.
Okay, next joke. So I'll do the dating jokes, and then I'll be like, talking about dating and sex. We don't have sex education back in India, but I still somehow know how to fake it.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was good. Let me find how I had your jokes written down, and
that's great. That's a great misdirect because I really didn't think that would happen, but that's fun. Walk us through that one then.
Okay, this one was actually easy too. My other one-liners took like 2-4 hours or 3 or 4 weeks, but these two were the good ones. It came out easy. So this one, actually, I was talking to a friend back in India, and she was like, hey, do you know these people in the US have sex education? Isn't that funny? And it's like, well, we have it too now in India. She was like, but what do you think they teach in the sex education class?
What do they?
Like different positions? And I was like,
no,
they probably teach you how to fake it.
Fake it, right?
And then she laughed and she's like, you're crazy, and you know, and then he forgot about it. And then later I did an open mic. Somebody said some joke about sex education, and then it just came back to my mind that we talked about it. So I went back home and I tried to write that. And And yeah, I just literally wrote that. I didn't really do any brainstorming on it or anything. I just went back home and I wrote what I talked to her, that we don't have sex education back in India. And then I said, I somehow know how to fake it. And then I just added, but I still somehow know how to fake it. So just like, yeah, this one was pretty easy. And I was like, why did I not do it that time? It was like after 2 months of talking to her, it just came back to my mind. I was like, that was funny conversation. So yeah.
I can't believe the culture that brought us the Kama Sutra does not teach sex education.
They do now, so it's not a good joke. But when I was there, they didn't have those classes.
They wrote a whole encyclopedia about it.
I know, and it's like the most taboo subject in our household. We never talk about it. I've never asked where I came from to my dad. I don't want to know, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then it's always so awkward when we're watching like movies, especially now, like Bollywood movies are ridiculous. They're like little softcore porns. It's awful. We're just like, I can't watch any movie with my dad whatsoever. I'm just like, let's watch a Disney movie because we're not watching Bollywood. We're not watching Hollywood. It's just Mickey Mouse. That's it. That's the safest thing now.
Yeah, they fall in love so easily in Bollywood movies.
Oh, doesn't that annoy
you? And then you move to the US and then you keep dating for 100 years and then still no love.
There's that compare and contrast again.
There's so much good stuff that just comes from what you say. You know, I find your material or even your thought process quite interesting, and like I can just picture the writing sessions that you have. So from what I understand, something funny happens, it comes to you, then you write it down, as opposed to sitting down and trying to write something funny.
I do both actually. If I find something funny, I'll put it in a notepad or Google Docs, and then I have like 30 minutes of my day is usually writing. So I'll go back to my Google Docs and find out what random words I would write. I try to find funny words also. Like I read somewhere that you have to have funny words when you script like a joke or a craft a joke. So I try to find funny jokes and funny lines, and conversation has somebody laughing, I would pick that. So yeah, I work on this shit a lot.
It shows. It really shows.
You make me feel lazy because I the way I look at it is like, let me give you an analogy, right? I have a friend of mine. They always believe that. They told me about a belief from ancient Rome that all those sculptures, all those carvings and statues, they already existed like that, and someone came and carved the rock off them, but the statue already existed. You just needed the rock to be removed. So to make that make sense, right? The way I look at material is the joke already exists. I just need to like carve out the rock exterior. So I don't really ever sit down and write material. I just do the first one. I just pick it up and then I script it and then I present it to the world. Yet it already existed. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah. I mean, you don't always have to sit and write. I mean, yeah. It could be the way you're doing it. That's good too. Cut the words you already have to, yeah.
It's just a natural approach. But it's not the best one because I need to add more jokes now. I need to try your style. Sit down and actually generate material.
Writing a joke is like eating a Reese's. Like there's no wrong way, right? There's just no wrong way. I don't know the UK guy. Does he get that joke?
No. I don't really get that because we don't eat Reese's Pieces that much.
So Reese's has a commercial.
Yeah.
Their tagline is "There's no wrong way to eat a Reese's."
Oh, right. Well,
so I use
okay.
the is like, and therefore there's a joke.
Okay, but what I was saying is, like, I find it easier to work with stuff that I already have. So, like, let's say someone says something funny, I sit down and then develop it from that point rather than sit and look at a blank page, because I find that the first type of jokes are way natural, way more funny than stuff that I try to consciously put on a piece of paper.
Yeah. I feel like you have to learn to write both ways, though. You know, it's like once you've done 3 or 4 specials, like where's all this stuff going to come from? You've talked about so much stuff. What are you going to put yourself in new situations all the time and get all this inspiration? There has to be a point where you have to be able to look at a blank piece of paper and go, I'm going to write some jokes right now, you know? And that's what the Write 10 Club is about. It's literally, we get a random word and it's go. You got 10 minutes. Give me the best joke you got, you know? And I love that. We've been doing it for like more than a month now. And it's another skill to build. And it's just like a muscle. You just have to build it, you know?
Yes.
I had a question for you, Ritu, and I totally forgot. Oh, so you were talking about, so those were 2 jokes. There was also a point where you said, other jokes took me 2 to 4 months. Do you remember some of these jokes that took you 2 to 4 months?
2 to 4 weeks, yeah.
2 to 4 weeks?
Like that. Like I was trying to write something about Americans, so their hobbies.
Yeah.
So like they're obsessed with recycling. So I just kept thinking about how that could be funny, that they're so obsessed with recycling. I have still not come up with that. I just said recycling makes you look poor. So, you know, that's all I could think of right now. And then I've noticed that Americans keep blessing people when they sneeze. So I was just thinking about it, and then I was like, they should actually bless people when they fart. Like why do they bless people when they sneeze? You know, they should do it when they fart, right? Well, that's when you need more blessing.
That's when you need more blessing. Yeah.
How do you egg that out?
So that joke took a while. So I just kept thinking about why do they bless people when they sneeze? Like I thought of like God and this and that. And then I was just watching TV and I was like, they should actually bless people when they fart. And I just went back to my paper and pen and I was like, I gotta write this shit. This is funny.
What came on TV that made you think that? Or was it because your brain was just, you're not even thinking at that point?
What's that?
What was that? What was on TV that made you think that?
No, I was not watching. I don't watch TV. I just turn on the TV and I'm on my own world. I'm a little weird. I was not watching TV. I was just looking at the TV and it just like, I was like, they should bless people. I was stuck on this joke. So I've been thinking about this thing a lot. So I did like 10 different things about blessing people when they sneeze. I thought of God. I was like, they may be thinking about Jesus or do what. Finally, I came up with this fart thing and I was like, this is funny. You got to try this.
It is funny.
And then I thought of, I saw these marathons every year in Nashville. So I was like, and so I thought about running and marathon, and I was like, paying for running and calling it marathon. That's another American hobby. So I kept thinking about it, and I'm still thinking about it. So, you know.
American companies charge people for what people in the third world do for free.
Can I steal that? That's funny.
That is okay, fine.
Fine. You're just giving away your material to me.
That's probably why the third world people have won the races so much, because they have more practice. It's free.
Yeah.
We have to pay every time to practice, and these people are just like, all right, it's free gym time right now.
I gotta go. So
Same Bolt. Damn, that's crazy. So so I'm gonna summarize your thought process, even though you might not even be aware of how you just did those 3 jokes, though.
Oh, okay.
You did 3 of the 5 W, or well, 3 of the 5 W's. So the first one, you said how. How
Okay.
do I get to my boyfriend's house?
Okay, yes, I did that.
Then the second one, what was the second one? I'm sorry, what was the joke? Sex education. Oh.
Yes.
And the punchline was what?
Punchline was that.
What do they teach? Right?
Yes.
What? You asked what. So the first one you asked how, the next one you asked what, and then the third one was why. Why do they bless sneezes?
Oh, so I'm using those strategies unintentionally.
Yeah, you just.
Damn, that's cool.
Natural comedian.
You are so natural. What we're telling you.
Oh, that's nice. So I'm following the organized strategy thing also. All right, I feel good about it now. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
And also, as you learn more strategies, you're just gonna become killer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just gonna be like,
it's gonna be amazing. I can't wait to see what you come up with.
Punchline after punchline.
And I'll give you a way to expand your joke. So this is something Patrick Fowler talked about, and it was from improv. All right, and so one of the rules of improv is called "If this is true, then what else?" Okay.
Okay.
So they do this on the spot all the time. So if your improv partner says something like, I'm fat, you go, okay, if he's fat, then what else happens? Well, he probably eats a lot of McDonald's. Okay. If this is true, what else? Well, he probably has diabetes. If this is true, then what else? Well, he probably has a high hospital bill, until it gets to like the absurdity. And then that's the way you can build like these entire bits and characters and stuff like that. So if this is true, then what else? So I would go back to your punchlines and go, okay, what is the character? What is the punchline? If that's how they think, how else would they think? Or what else is true about this situation? And then you can start to build out your sets and create more jokes just through your one-liners.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a great advice. Yeah, I'll work on that.
No, but you're here to give us advice anyways. But
and some advice from me, although I get a lot of criticism from people for always putting race into the equation, but you can talk about how Indians created the Kama Sutra, then the white man took it and called it sex education, and it doesn't teach anything. You talk about how the Kama Sutra defends this and that, but sex education only teaches this.
My favorite thing about Nelson is that he always thinks he has a mic in his hand. Like, regardless of what he has in his hand, he's like, anyways, I'm just like...
Don't you do that? Don't you?
I don't do that. I actually thought you're just like, what's in my hand? Hello, is this thing on?
Yeah, listen. Every time I write a joke, or every time my joke gets to a point where it's not just a line but a joke, I have to do it like this, because this is how I make it come to life.
I know. It's a sickness.
Once I start doing this, it's like it just starts coming to me. I just do it. I just start looking in the right. It's like, you know what I mean? Everything falls into place, because this is how I'll be when I'm on stage.
That's hilarious. Cool. And that brings us to our last segment, which we don't even have a name for this segment, but it's troubleshooting premises. And so, Ritu, you had one that maybe we could work on.
Is this a segment where you guys write a joke for me and I get to steal that?
Yes, exactly.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That
was the actual reason I was here, because I'm very bad at writing. So you guys can write for me. I could just go perform.
No problem.
All right. So this is the premise that I wrote yesterday morning.
Yeah.
So yes. So my mom wants me to marry an Indian man.
Yeah.
And I want to marry an American man.
Yeah.
But we both actually want the same thing for me. And then I wrote regular sex. It's funny because it won't come from my mom, my mom. And or I wrote unconditional love in terms of splitting bills.
In terms of spreading bills, is that what you said?
Splitting bills, yeah.
That's fun.
Rent is so high in Nashville. I can get married if somebody wants to like pay half of my rent. Yeah. Oh my god.
No, divorce pays more than marriage.
Oh,
you don't have to deal with the husband. I know you've already been divorced. You didn't get the alimony?
No, I was just so nice to him. Now I regret it though.
Yeah.
That's a joke.
That's a joke.
They don't teach Indian people.
I was nice to him. That's a joke. That's a joke of my life.
It's a joke of my life.
So, Ritu, here's how I would phrase it if it was a joke. It'd be like, you talk about how broke you are. You exaggerate it like a comedian does. Then you were like, I'm actually divorced, but I didn't get any money from that. I was very nice to him. You can work on how Western women are not nice to their ex-husbands.
Yeah, that's a good premise, actually.
I could work on something about I haven't written anything on my ex-husband. I just let him go so easily. Damn.
You need to be vicious to him. You're a comedian. That is. You need to bring out that meanal.
All right. So tell me about that joke now. Write the punchline on it.
Write the punchline.
Regular sex. Okay. Let me think.
The thing that immediately came to my mind was my mom wanted me to marry an Indian man, and I want to marry a American woman. But it's funny. Gay jokes are interesting now because it used to be like the joke of the 90s, you know? But now it's like, okay, so you want to marry an Indian woman or American woman, now what? You know, it's like,
now what?
Yeah, now what? It's like, but that immediately came to my mind. This one is a tough one, huh? We might have to come back in 2 to 4 weeks.
I got it.
You got it. Okay.
So with this type of joke, right, you implement Nelson's rule of association.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, that's not an actual rule, but I feel like when you get to the point of the joke where you're talking about how you and your mom both wanted the same thing, you wrote down regular sex, you know, and then you start listing the things that you really do want. And the reason why I phrased it like that is because it's things that people take for granted. People always say, get married, but what I really want is regular sex. Do I really have to get married? Okay.
What I really want is regular sex and my bills paid. That's
both together.
Both together, yeah.
And then you start riffing on that regular sex, my bills paid. We need a third characteristic, though.
That could be off. You could use a rule of threes too if you want.
Regular sex,
bills paid, and then something insane.
What else does the husband do?
A good husband or a bad husband? What are we talking
about? Well, a real husband, one who exists.
Why do they exist?
Why do they exist? Why do husbands exist?
I don't think they should exist.
I don't think they should. Why do you not think they should exist?
I'm just kidding. If my mom sees this, she's gonna kill me. She wants me to get married.
If your mom sees this, we made it, Ritu.
Nah. Okay, I feel like we can at least help you find associations.
Yeah.
Then you can put the bow on the end on your own. We can't do everything for you here. But I think that you can associate that. You can try to talk about other, things that are linked to that. That's also unprofessional, man.
Yeah, it's just has to be something that's funny, that's related to marriage, but that's not something important. Like regular sex is not important. That's not why people get married. So that could be funny. And then I don't know, to pay my organic food expenses. I don't know. It's just like random things.
Yeah.
Thing is, none of us are married. I don't know about me. I don't trust you.
No.
The good thing is we're gonna have a comment section. So in this episode, we'll let the listeners think.
Write the joke. Right.
Add the third tagline, and then we'll send it.
Yeah.
By the way, do you use those Facebook comedy groups? There's two that are really good. The Facebook comedy clean writing group, and then the other one is just Facebook comedy writing. But both of those are run by Right 10 members, and you could just literally put a premise down, and people will start tagging your stuff. So.
Oh, great!
Yeah.
So they can work for me, and then I don't have to pay them.
Exactly.
Oh, nice. I'll do that right away. Thank you.
Definitely. Man, I thought we would solve this one. I don't think we're going to solve this one today.
Nah, mate, we'll leave it to the comment section. This was bound to happen.
Yeah.
We were about to face a challenge. So
I know, we were 3 for 3, but okay, that's fine. We got Marpins, we got Patrick's. Yeah, no, but that's all right. This is the reality of comedy. You don't get gold every time, right?
Yes.
But awesome, Ritu. Thank you so much for spending time with us. This was so fun to get to know you.
No problem. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, come back when you blow up in 2-3 years, man, for real. And actually, come back in a couple of months. I'm kidding. You can come back whenever you want. Even when you suck, you can just be like, I had this terrible open mic and I just want to blow off steam right here.
Well, once we have a joke for the regular sections, we have a third tag. Go test it out and let us know how it went.
Yes, I will test it out for sure.
If it's crazy, we'll do a whole episode on it.
Yeah, we could.
Also, before you go, Ritu, you should look into crowd work because I think that would match with your energy, your vibe.
Yes.
Because you pick up on funny things, and you before they're even structured as jokes, and that's a skill that you can look to develop. Just talking to crowds, they say something funny, because I think you have it just from this conversation.
Yeah.
Just do that bounce back.
I have never tried crowd work. I really stick to my prepared script so strictly.
Yeah.
And I've never been heckled also, so I actually don't know how that works. Well, so yeah, I'll try crowd work someday. That's on my list of things to learn.
If it helps, what you could do is have jokes where you can ask an audience opinion at the start, like, "Ma'am, you married? What you think about marriage?" "Well, let me tell you about my marriage," that type of thing.
Well, I saw your previous podcast, and you said that you write all these jokes on all these things, like engineers and this and that.
Yeah.
So whenever somebody's crowd work, somebody's from that department or that thing, you have a joke ready on that.
Yeah.
That's what you do?
Yeah, but the thing is, it's a numbers game, and I'm not it works so well to a point where I start convincing myself I may be crazy or stuff like that. So
that is impressive. No, that is great that you do that. That you have jokes on every topic.
I'll tell you how it started. It's just a short story. So I hosted an open mic in my city, right? So it's like once or twice a month, and we've done it for 6 years, and it's become the biggest open mic in the city. The problem is I didn't have a blueprint to work on, so I had to teach myself all these things. So when I started hosting the show, I realized that there would be jobs, typical jobs that would always pop up, and every time I'd need a new joke, and so there are 4 different jokes about teachers, 4 different jobs about just the general stuff, nothing too specific. We also have a lot of students in our city, so I'd have like a joke about the university. I'd have a joke about my time at uni. It's just that so that I associate what they say quickly with the material that I have and make it seem like I'm just making up the joke on the spot so that the audience is more impressed. They're like, damn, how did he just come up with that? You know,
I know.
that's what I try to think.
Would a
That's
reasonable
how
thing be to just start with asking a question, like a specific question, like, ma'am, what do you do? And then just not have a joke for it, but just like at least collect that data, you know, just like, oh, she's a nurse, she's a blah, blah, blah. And then start writing the jokes, you know?
Well, what I did came out of fear. So I was hosting every show for a month. And, you know, in your early stages, you're so scared of bombing that every time you try to prepare to like as much as possible. So even when I didn't have a joke, I'd be like, ma'am, I don't have a joke for your job. So let's pretend you're a scientist or you're a so it's just it comes out of fear and the fact that I didn't want to have a bad show, man.
May I remind you, our guest doesn't have any fears.
Huh?
Our guest doesn't have any fears. May I remind you?
Oh, I do? No. I come off as like super cool, but I have so many fears.
Do you?
No, I have a lot of fears.
How do you judge your material after when you're leaving the stage?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, like, what tells you you've had a good set?
Oh, I think comedian's job is the easiest if you want to know how good or bad you are. If people are not laughing, get your shit together. And if people are laughing, I guess you're good. Yeah. I don't know. It's just as easy as it is. If nobody's laughing and if I come out of stage and I say, I'm like, oh my God, my show was great. That is stupid. If people were laughing, then my set was good. And
surprised. In the UK, people would do a whole hour show, have a few laughs here and there, and that would get like 4 or 5 stars a review. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
That'd be the worst. But I think it's easy for you because you're present. And that goes back to the whole theme of the show is you're just there. So you can pay attention. Whereas if other people are in their head, they don't actually know how their jokes actually went because they're thinking, oh, how should I say this? Oh, I messed that up, blah, 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 you know, and you're just there delivering the jokes. So
no, I noticed that also. Like I did one same set at one place and then I had another show the same day. Yeah. So I did the same set at another show and I did amazing at the first one and the second one I bombed. Like nobody was laughing. It's the same jokes. Yeah. But because I lost my energy, like I was just so tired till the second show that I was not excited to deliver them. So I noticed those differences that delivery counts also. It's not only jokes. It's the way you say it, the facial expressions, the hand movements. So I record my set and I go home and I see where people were laughing and where they were not laughing, why my facial expression changed when I said something. Yeah, I read that and I study that. Like I'm kind of dumb like that.
I respect that. The game tape, you always have to record it so that you analyze it over and over. It's such a powerful tool and it's like watching yourself and then judging yourself. You can, it adds so much. I encourage people to do that.
Yeah.
So, you said why your facial expression changes. What do you mean by that? Like
when you're tired, you're just doing 3 or 4 shows in a day. Suppose you're a great comedian and you do 3 or 4 shows. So if I have a show at 10 p.m., I just want to make sure that I remember my material. So I would do 2 or 3 mics in that day to make sure that my show goes well. But till I get to that show, I'm so tired of repeating the same thing that I don't have the same enthusiasm when I go on stage. So I learned that during like my time, that I don't have to do mics before the show. I could just relax and do my show with, I have to remember material due before or something. Yeah. So your facial expressions change when you're tired or when you're just, comedy is a lot about being there, just being present. It's scripted, but you have to show like you're so that you're just thinking out of your head right now. I am just so cool and funny right away. But you've written all that, but it's fake and it's authentic. So I don't know. It's just a little borderline.
I love it. Cool, Ritu. Thank you so much again for, wow, I learned a ton of stuff today, and it was just such a pleasure meeting you. Come back for sure.
Okay.
Our guests have been so interesting that I don't even, if I say you're the favorite, the others that have listened will be like, also, I thought I was your favorite, but I really enjoyed it.
It's okay. I'll not tell anybody else. It's okay.
You
the
have
other two guests weren't that great. That's what you're saying?
They were really good. You have such a refreshing take on comedy, and it's coming from the pure curiosity of just wanting to pursue the art form, and it's just so lovely. It's a beautiful journey to witness, and I can't wait to listen to more of your material.
Great, thank you guys.
All right. Well, all the way from the UK, cheerio.
All the way from India and Nashville. It's your turn, Matt.
All the way from Chicago. I hope I live past today. So.
All right.
All right, bye guys.
Do the sign off. I love that.
Oh. Bye, people. Turn only for you.
Bye, Ritu.